Welcome to another edition to Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. This show was created from one of the more than 300 motivational quotes I had created for the contents of my books. Little did I know when I got together with Gilda, Chris, Anne Marie, and the voice of our show, Otis, that this show was going to turn into something more than just a quote that we had or words that just kind of lay there on a page. It's all about a conversation we need to be had. We meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. One of us brings in a quote that is attached to us. We go ahead and explain, based on our interpretation and perspectives, how this quote landed on us. And we do a little round table. We go around to see how it lands on each and every last one of us. So I want you to buckle up, enjoy the show. Welcome to another edition of Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. And I'm going to turn the show over to the voice of our show, Mr. Otis Spencer. You want to deliver the quote today?
Rising, everyone. Happy Sunday. And the quote we have today is, the most valuable math you can learn is how to calculate the future cost of your decisions.
All right. How do we calculate the future cost of our decisions? Anne Marie, this quote's been sitting with you for quite some time. How does this quote land on you?
Grand Rising, everybody. You know, it's funny when you read a quote and it resonates with you, and then you say, okay, why did it resonate with me again? But I've got something for our audience this morning. We are exactly where we are today because of the decisions that we made yesterday or the time period before. Decisions like, did you save some money or not? Did you invest money or not? Did you pursue degrees or not? What trade did you decide and make a decision to enter? Or did you not make that decision and let it just glide in? So the decisions we made in previous days, weeks, months, and years of our lives have us sitting with us right where we are now. Are we happy? Are we content? Are we satisfied with that position? Those are some questions to ask about our present and how it's connected. But when we look at the quote and it's talking value, future cost of current decisions, I think about the future self. So if I could forecast into the future, it's really, what decisions are you making about your future that your future self would thank you for? What decisions are you making now that your future self would thank you for? I'll share a personal one. I would love to see my family come together. Okay. We know in families, people fuss and fight, and sometimes you forget what they were fussing and fighting over. I would love to see them come together. Well, it's not going to happen at the family reunion, okay? If there is one. In order for that to happen, we have to make deposits. We have to make deposits into the relationships, reach out, make calls, send a text out of the blue, random acts of kindness. And it is in making those deposits that we can see it manifest in the future. Education is another example. We send our children to school. We're making deposits into their future and hoping that their future selves will benefit from that. Eating the right foods is another example. What we eat today, my goodness, when we get older, it makes a difference, because it is very true in terms of your gut health is important to you. With that being said, our decisions today make for our future. And before I end, I want to say, well, how do you get there? And I think about the idea of dreaming. At some point, we stopped dreaming. What if we started dreaming again? So, you know how COVID ravaged our country, ravaged the world 5 years ago? Who'd have think it? Who'd have thunk it? we're 5 years out. Here we are 5 years out from that travesty that happened. So it's not a big jump to imagine 5 years are going to pass by just like that. So where do we want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now? What does that future look like? Dream it, maybe even make an avatar about it, name it, and then we can manifest the decision making we need to do today to get to that place. This is how the quote landed on me.
You know, I'm sitting here listening to the voice of Anne-Marie Maloney, and I couldn't help but to think when I opened my eyes, Maya Angelou's before us. I'm listening to how sweet the way that she enunciates, say words and whatever, and how they, it's like, walking in grandma's house and she's making apple pie. How that smell just never goes away. That voice that sits there, and it comes to you, that brings you home every holiday, every birthday, every stop by grandmother's house, whatever. That voice just does it. So when you talk about the future costs, I want you to remember what you've heard, how you felt, as she articulated how this quote landed on her, talking about your investments based on now and what the return on that investment is later on. Makes you want to think, doesn't it? All right. So years ago, my next guest, my next co-host made a decision. He stood in line. He signed a piece of paper. They shaved his head. They cut, his mustache off, his beard off. They gave him a new pair of specs. They put him in a uniform. I'm going to tell you, I've seen a lot of military people that had been dressed up in whatever, Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, whatever. And some of them were duds in that uniform. But I'm going to tell you, when my brother here, Mr. Christopher, put on that uniform, I'm going to tell you, he made a military man look like Beau Brummel. And if you don't know what Beau Brummel means, that's a well-dressed man. So, Christopher, one, I want to thank you for making a decision based on your present circumstances and our future circumstances of this country and everyone that's on this panel. Thank you for your service. But the most valuable math that you can learn, how do you calculate the future costs of your current decision, sir?
Well, Kevin, first, grand rising to everyone. I sort of, when I heard that saying, I sort of measured it between two endpoints. One, what is it called? Analysis paralysis. And on the other side is winging it. And we all fit somewhere comfortably between those two. I tend to lean a bit more towards winging it every now and then. But it boils down to this. A lot of times you have a plan, and placing it in motion is fairly simple. Line up the respective dots or ducks, whatever you want to use, and proceed with that. But a lot of times when your path or your future is somewhat uncertain or somewhat foggy or murky, sometimes a long devised plan just isn't going to work. And what I've learned, if nothing else, in the military, no matter how hard you plan, that plan lasts about 3 seconds once you contact the enemy. So you can have your well-thought plan, and 2 steps into it, you run into your first hitch. So winging it has often been my fallback. But even in that, even in the quote-unquote winging it, there are certain guidelines that I stick to, and there are certain future aspects that I'm looking towards. So even in a worst case scenario, which is about where we are right now, we can plan, but in that plan, we have to have safeguards, exits, points where we can wing it. The actual calculations, what I'm going to receive at the end, it varies. It sort of goes in and out, depending on what I'm receiving back from, the now, as opposed to the future. But plans have always been my guidepost. I believe in plans. I believe in having a strategy. I believe in setting down what you plan to do before you do it, even fully knowing that those plans are going to be gone and up in smoke the very second you make contact with the real issue. So I'm going to add one more caveat to that saying. Remain flexible. Be ready and on your tippy toes to respond to that future the minute it changes, and be aware enough of where you're going and where you want to be to make the adjustments you need to get to where you're going to wind up. And
Right.
That's a scary saying, but it forced me to look at things that I don't look at very often, and when I do look at it, it tends to frighten me.
Wow. It's always amazing to hear one person's interpretations over another, and then you put it into real life, and you ask yourself the question: what if? What would I do? What should I do? And why did I do that? This poem answers that question. But whatever decisions you make, no matter what choices you make, there's a price to pay. Sometimes you're rewarded for that decision, and sometimes you are crucified or punished for that decision. And sometimes we wish we had never made that decision. We have to live with the consequences of that decision. All right? Sometimes. That's why Maya Angelou talked about the caged bird sings. She talked about those choices and whatever, and how she poured her activism and made it an art. And I think that's what we're doing today with this quote. We're turning our activism and our personal stories into art. All right. We're going to make a difference today in someone's life. Right, Gilda? All right. Hey, Otis, for our listeners that just tuned in, Papa Otis, can you give us that quote again in that smooth, sultry voice of yours and whatever? I'm going to tell you, James Earl Jones, we missed you, but God has left us with a gift, the voice, Mr. Otis Spencer.
The quote again: the most valuable math you can learn is how to calculate the future cost of your decisions.
You know something? I'm going to write a screenplay, and you're going to be that villain, that voice that's going to walk, the door that's going to open and whatever, and go, oh my gosh, that voice is coming up. I'm going to write something for you, Otis. All right?
All right.
I'll be the female hero that comes in and saves the day.
All right. Hey, you can't be the female here, because every single time you talk, I want to buy you roses. All right? You can't do that. You cost too much. That's all right. And we need some superheroes in here that not exactly young and all ripped and buffed or whatever. We need some real superheroes, because believe it or not, when you look at the stories, our older people, us, we are the superheroes. All right. They're the trainees. All right. They don't need to be center stage. They need to be following us. Anne Marie, go put on your cape and your high boots and whatever. All right. So, Gilda, how does this quote land on you?
Grand Rising, everyone. This quote lands on me. Can you hear?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Knowing your future costs, I think it helps make smart decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Financial.
Yeah, financial decisions.
Yeah. Financial decisions, personal decisions. All right.
Yes.
I mean, we've said that. So Otis, we've got a short staff today. The holidays come. I just want to let you know, I'm going to be releasing one of my songs this 4th of July, My America. You guys have all heard. I'm going to release it to the public this year. So hopefully the people that are going to be listening to it, just remember, I'm including every single person that lives in this country in there. My question is to them, when you hear that song, is I used to look at the American flag and I used to think about how grateful I was, how lucky. I am 2 generations removed from slavery. And I said, in order for me to play a football game, to do what I do, to get my college education, I am very grateful. But now I'm asking what happened to my America. And that's what the song is. So listen to the lyrics when you hear that, July 3rd, 2025. And like I said, before you're offended, listen. All right, because we include everyone. So Otis, we come to that time of the show. All right, we're gonna let the bird out of the cage. So Maya Angelou, we miss you. Gil Scott, we miss you. All right, Angela Davis, we miss you. All right, Stevie Wonder, we are glad that you are there. Temptations, we miss all of you guys. I can go on and on and on and on. Because believe it or not, every single person that came before us, all right, they knew the cost they were paying in order to pave the way so we can have the opportunity there. So this is an example of the return investment of someone that calculated a valuable lesson in a state of mind long before they saw the return on the investment. So Otis, with that voice of yours, all right, how do you interpret, or what's your perspective on this quote?
Taking a little bit of what everyone says, I put it in this way. Think of it as a game or sports. You've got a coach, you got people trying to help you out. You got cards or you got the roll of the dice. Life can be like a roll of the dice and you're moving along the board. Can you pass go and move forward? Or do you do something? You pick the wrong card and you do the wrong thing, sort of like Anne-Marie makes you step back to say, hey, what did I do wrong? So that you can move forward again. Because when we make the wrong decisions, it's game over and it's the end of you. Make the right decisions.
That reminds me of Forrest Gump. He says, life is like a box of cherries. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. All right. So that's what it is. And so we've come to that point in the show. We normally have 10, 12 people in here. And like I said, this show goes on if it's just one of us, 2 of us. And here it is, all 5 of us. And I hope you as a listener, when you hear this quote, or even, as a matter of fact, I'm going to say, write it down. Write it down, because in order for something to stick, you got to be able to put your hands on it. Right, guys? Put your hands on it. Write it down and look at it. The most valuable math that you can learn is to how to calculate the future costs of your decisions. Now, let me tell you, all right, this may come as a surprise to all of you guys. At one point, yours truly, Kevin Mclemore, was making some bad choices in his life. All right. I was that kid. I was the kid that when you had a party, my name wasn't on the list. I went from not being invited to being one of the people you had to have there. All right. That's when I talk about chance and choice. My grandfather used to always say, because I was always in trouble, he said, a good run is better than a bad stance. All right. I grew up in a family of 13. I had 5 brothers that beat my butt. They were the only people that were ever to take me. I stood up to everyone. And my grandfather said, one day I'm gonna meet my match. He said, you have to think about it. I would not run from a fight. So when I look at this conversation my grandfather had, okay, he had already started making payments on my future. All right. Joe Phillips sat me down and told me a good run is better than a bad stance. What he was translating to me is having the foresight and suggesting for me to understand that the choices I make could directly impact my future. If you look at through our current penal system right now. You know, a large majority of our children are incarcerated for most of their lives, whatever, just for the simple fact that someone like my grandfather had the same conversation with them. They went out and didn't pay any attention. Lucky for me, I had Coach Russo, Coach Clemens that reinforced and gave me another opportunity. I just hooked up with one of my teammates that played for Detroit Lions, Larry Lee, and we talked about some of these choices we were making. Yeah, we made some bad choices. We just never got caught. And lucky for us. So what I believe, my grandfather and your aunts, your uncles, your brothers, the neighbor that sat on the porch that poured their wisdom into you, were trying to say is understand the potential of your consequences, all right? Both the positive and the negative, and that the actions that follow. We all make choices. Focus solely on not your present outcome, but make time and invest in what the future will bear for you. There's a cost to be paid, and every one of us at some point will be at that crossroad. And your ability to calculate the future cost is a skill that many of my co-hosts, my friends and guests on this show now possess. But many of other people lack the knowledge or pay enough attention in order to get out of their own way. So if you can master the art to be able to calculate your decisions on what you're going to do right now, that being your financial, that meaning your health, that means in your education, that means in your personal relationship. When I talk about personal relationships, I want you to think about this. You ever had a conversation with someone you cared about and you said something you wish you had never said? There's a future cost to that, and the damage is done. If you look at a child and you're an adult and you tell that child that this is all he or she is going to be, and they turn out to be that way, all right, you're pre-programming failure in a gift that you brought into this world. All right, I'm not saying lie to your child, but I said provide an opportunity and a landing place for your child to soar. Let them take off on their own. Give them encouragement. All right, let them know the inner beauty of themselves. Let them sit at the table with someone like Anne Marie that pours her education, her life and her life experiences into that child and provide them with an opportunity and a different scope of something they don't see at home. We are all wordsmiths, every last one of us on this show. We're all that one person that, believe it or not, may sit on the seat next to someone in a bus, a theater, or stand in line at a grocery store. That person may be complaining about the weather, and you may turn to them and say, you know something, I'm going to tell you, the sun, the cold, it feels so great when you're six feet above ground, then 6 feet under. It's just the way you look at it. So think about the conversation you have. Think about the choices you make. And have enough foresight to be able to live with the consequences of the conversation, the decisions you make today. Because sometimes when you have enough foresight to see what happens, you end up with a show with a group of friends like this. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank my family, my friends that are on this platform, because they're all my family. The nice thing about having this family is I get to pick who I'm related to, all right, instead of having to be forced into it. So that way, when I know someone loves me, they love me, not because of obligation. But the most valuable math that you can learn is to calculate the future costs of the decision you make. My grandfather always said, and this has stuck with me, all right, and this is something he poured into me. He says, when you get to a position that you can help someone else out, he said, reach one, teach one. And Grandpa, today is the future of what you poured into me. And we say, what?
Fade to black.
And we fade to black and we're out. Until next week. And we come back. Until next week, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for tuning in for Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. If you like what you heard, you can find us on our YouTube page, RK Productions and Network. If you want to make a comment or even be a guest, look in the description of the show, and the Zoom link is there. You're always welcome. Just bring something positive. So until next week, enjoy every holiday. Matter of fact, enjoy every single day and live it like it was your last day. All right? Ciao.